Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The House of Representatives voted 216 to 213 early this morning in favor of President Trump's rescissions package, clawing back $9 billion in already approved funding for foreign aid and public broadcasting. Only 2 Republicans oppose the measure, which now heads to Trump's desk for his signature. The legislation codifies Trump's cuts to foreign assistance through the U.S. Agency for International Development, which the British medical journal The Lancet reports could result in 14 million additional deaths globally by 2030. Catherine Maher, head of NPR, blasted the, quote, unwarranted dismantling of beloved local civic institutions by an act of Congress that disregards the public will, unquote. We'll have more on this later in the broadcast with Loris Taylor, president of Native Public Media and Congressmember Ro Khanna. In the Gaza Strip, an Israeli strike today killed 5 displaced Palestinians sheltering in tents in al-Mawasi, an area designated as a safe zone by Israel's military. The attack sparked a major fire. Infants were among the dead. Separately, Israeli attacks killed 7 more hungry Palestinians as they search for parcels of humanitarian aid. Medical workers report Israeli attacks have killed at least 30 Palestinians since dawn today. This follows an Israeli airstrike Tuesday on a home in Gaza City's Al-Tufa neighborhood that killed 14 members of the Arafat family, including 7 children. Video shows 35-year-old Hala Arafat trapped under the rubble of her home, crying out for help. Rescue crews attempting to approach the site over the next 8 hours were reportedly fired on by Israeli drones. During that time, Hala and other members of her family fell silent and died. This comes as the United Nations Children's Fund warns 21 months of Israeli attacks have killed more than 17,000 children in Gaza, with another 33,000 injured. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell testified to the UN Security Council Wednesday.
An average of 28 children have been killed each day, the equivalent of an entire classroom. Consider that for a moment, a whole classroom of children killed every day for nearly 2 years. These children are not combatants. They are being killed and maimed as they line up for life-saving food and medicine.
Meanwhile, in the occupied West Bank, Christian leaders have accused Israeli settlers of attacking religious sites, including an arson attack on a cemetery and a 5th-century church in the Christian town of Taibeh. The Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem, Theophilus III, told reporters, quote, "We call for an immediate and transparent investigation on why the Israeli police did not respond to emergency calls from the local community and why these abhorrent actions continue to go unpunished," unquote. In southern Syria, heavy fighting has once again erupted between Druze fighters and Bedouin armed groups just hours after Syrian government forces withdrew from the province of Suwaida as part of a ceasefire deal. A spokesman for Syria's Interior Ministry is denying reports Syrian forces are being redeployed to the region. The UN Human Rights Office reports all factions fighting in Suwaida have committed widespread rights violations, including summary executions, arbitrary killings, kidnappings, and looting. President Trump says he's directed Attorney General Pam Bondi to release grand jury testimony from federal investigations into the dead serial sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. But Trump's announcement failed to quench a revolt among his MAGA supporters who are continuing to demand the Justice Department release all files related to Epstein. On Thursday, the White House ruled out having Trump name a special prosecutor to look into the case. Meanwhile, Republicans on the House Rules Committee adopted a non-binding resolution calling for the release of files on Epstein. Separately Thursday, the Wall Street Journal reported Trump sent a lewd letter to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003, wishing him a happy 50th birthday. It concludes, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." We'll have more on this story after headlines, including speaking with an Jeffrey Epstein survivor. Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee voted Thursday to advance the nomination of controversial Justice Department official Emil Boie to a lifetime appointment on a federal court. The vote came despite vocal objections from Democrats after committee chair Chuck Grassley shut off debate on Bovie's nomination. All Democrats on the panel walked out of the vote in protest. Earlier this week, over 75 former federal and state judges sent a bipartisan letter urging the Judiciary Committee to reject Bovie's nomination. Separately, more than 900 former Justice Department attorneys issued a similar plea. Boie has been called an extreme ideologue and has allegedly directed Justice Department lawyers to ignore judicial orders that undermine Trump's agenda. This is Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.
As to Emil Boie, let me start with this nominee. Having told a room full of Department of Justice lawyers that if the federal courts didn't back off on restricting unlawful deportations, they would have to tell courts, F you.
Democrats also accuse Boie of being involved in a Justice Department decision not to release the Epstein files. Emil Boie is the former personal attorney of Donald Trump. As the Trump administration ramps up nationwide raids and deportations, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, will be given access to the personal data of the nation's nearly 79 million Medicaid enrollees, including their home address, Social Security number, ethnicity, and race. The new agreement was first reported by the Associated Press, and Trump officials have not publicly announced it. Undocumented immigrants are already banned from Medicaid benefits, but federal law requires all states to offer emergency Medicaid, which offers nearly free coverage for life-saving care at hospitals regardless of a person's immigration status. This comes as a coalition of immigrant rights groups are suing the Trump administration over the arrest of potentially thousands of people at immigration courts nationwide in recent months. The class action lawsuit seeks to end ongoing collaboration between the Homeland Security and Justice Departments, which has led to ICE agents swarming courthouses across the country, ambushing immigrants during routine hearings. The group said the policy, quote, intentionally stripped people of basic due process rights in order to place them in expedited removal proceedings and deport them without hearings, the group said. A Truth Out investigation warns of intensifying police and ICE raids at massage parlors nationwide, targeting and disappearing hundreds of immigrant sex workers, including here in New York. Advocates have criticized the lack of resources supporting immigrant sex workers who've long been vulnerable to harassment and arrest by federal immigration agents, often abandoned in detention to face deportation without legal help. A human rights group in El Salvador reports at least 427 people have died in Salvadoran prisons since President Nayib Bukele imposed a state of emergency in March 2022. The following year, Bukele's government authorized mass trials with people accused of crimes systematically denied due process under the guise of combating gangs. There have been numerous reports of abuse and torture in El Salvador's prisons. In related news, the long-standing anti-corruption watchdog Crisisal says it has evacuated its staff from El Salvador amidst Bukele's crackdown on dissent. Authorities arrested prominent Crisisal lawyer Ruth Lopez in May. She remains in detention. This is Cristisal's executive director, Noah Bullock.
You know, we've persisted through espionage, monitoring, legal, administrative harassment, defamation. But when it became clear that the government was prepared to persecute us criminally and that there's no possibility of defense or an impartial trial, that makes it unviable to take those risks anymore.
French troops completed their withdrawal from Senegal Thursday, the last West African country and former colony where France maintained a permanent military presence. Senegal has said it'll continue collaborating with France, in contrast with the military governments of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, which ousted French forces in recent years. The U.S. Justice Department has asked a federal judge to sentence a former Louisville, Kentucky police officer convicted of violating the civil rights of Breonna Taylor to 1 day in prison. Last year, a federal jury convicted Brett Hankison of using excessive force as he discharged several gunshots through Taylor's apartment window during a botched raid that killed Breonna Taylor inside her own home in 2020. Taylor was a black 26-year-old emergency room technician whose killing sparked nationwide racial justice protests. A judge has lifted all domestic travel restrictions on Columbia University Palestinian activist Mohsen Madawi. He's reportedly the first student activist targeted by ICE to be granted such freedoms. Madawi was arrested by federal immigration agents in April and detained in Vermont for over 2 weeks. He graduated from Columbia University a month ago. And CBS has announced it's canceling the long-running Late Show with Stephen Colbear. The network called it purely a financial decision, despite the show being consistently the highest rated among its late-night competitors. Trump has previously called Colbear, who frequently skewers the president on air, a complete and total loser. The news came amidst Paramount's impending and controversial merger with Skydance, and just 3 days after Colbert called out Paramount for agreeing to pay Donald Trump $16 million to settle Trump's lawsuit against CBS's 60 Minutes.
Someone who has always been a proud employee of this network, I'm offended. And I don't know if anything will ever repair my trust in this company. But just taking a stab at it, I'd say $16 million would help.
CBS's The Late Show has been on the air since 1993, with Stephen Colbert taking the reins in 2015. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.